Has it ever felt to you like learning a new language seems like a walk in the park for some people, while it appears to be completely impossible to others? How come some boast their knowledge of multiple languages, while the majority struggle to pick up even just a few words? Is it some special talent, perhaps, that only a few people possess? Or maybe some secret technique or resource that only a selected few have access to? Well, after spending quite a long time now jumping into several languages as different as Japanese and Greek, or German and Mandarin, I have come to realize that these two groups of people are not actually as different as we make them out to be, and that the main thing that separates them is a set of beliefs about what learning a language is all about. So, in this video, I've put together the top 4 misconceptions that are preventing people from joining the language learning club and trying it out for themselves, with the confidence that these so-called polyglots seem to have. So let's see what they are. The first misconception is that people believe that learning a new language is harder than it actually is and requires some special talent that they just don't have. This has probably a lot to do with the fact that most people only get to the initial steps of learning a new language, which tend to be the hardest because you can't say a single thing right, you don't remember anything, you don't understand the concepts. It really feels quite impossible that you will one day speak this thing. But something you need to realize is that that is as bad as it's ever gonna be. There is nothing intrinsically complex about the process of learning a language. You just have to figure out how something is said, try to understand it, remember it, check if you can use it, and then if you remembered it after that, you've done it. That really is all. And of course there are better and worse techniques, but the basic stuff is quite transparent. And actually people underestimate their ability to get started, progress, and eventually master the language. But in reality, we are all much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And this is especially true for language learning. And yet some people do feel that they just lack that special talent. And we could obviously discuss about this for hours, but I think the simplest way to prove that that's not the case is to realize that they have already done it and they have succeeded tremendously at it. And of course I'm talking about our mother tongue. And funnily enough, people tend to forget that when they arrived to this world, they didn't know anything. We were not even aware that language was a thing. It took us months and months and months to realize that what adults were doing was sending messages and that these messages changed the behavior of people and things. We start from total scratch and we still got here. And the reason for that is that the brain is an amazing machine that's specially fine-tuned to associate symbols and meaning and operate with them on a higher level, which is basically what language is. So thinking that you don't have the talent doesn't make a lot of sense, because you have proven that you do. Now, a very good point to make is that the success rates people get with their second or third language are really not as good as those regarding our first language. And that's very understandable. Not only because children have pretty much all their time devoted to learning this one thing, but also because your second language is just not as life-changing as the first. Of course, because going from goo goo gaga to being able to actually interact with people and the world around you, it's really hard to beat. And on the other hand, if all you want to do is watch this Korean show without subtitles, well, that's still great, but it just doesn't have the same pull. But on the other hand, you can use everything that you've learned about your first language and language itself to learn your second much faster than you would otherwise. You don't need to worry, it won't take you 3 to 4 months to be able to finally say a word like it might have done in your first language. You will be much more advanced by then. And that's because a huge chunk of the work is actually already done. And you've done it, and you've done it really well. So no reason to believe that you cannot do this one again. Now, moving to the second misconception, people believe that learning languages is simpler than it actually is. And this might sound like I'm contradicting myself, and that's because the beliefs that people have are kind of contradictory. They think they need some special talent, but they don't realize that what they really need to do is work a lot for a long time. And the primary reason for that is that languages are just massive. And the actual amount of information is kind of hard to grasp for people that are not actively involved into learning a new language, especially one from a different language family. But perhaps a good way to visualize it is that, if you think about it, language is the encoding of everything that the human mind can conceive and experience about the world. And not only that, It is a collaborative effort between millions of people from clashing cultures spanning thousands of different fields and topics throughout thousands and thousands of years. And so it's a huge mess. It's a completely colossal mess. And that's why having the right perspective is absolutely key in order to develop some realistic, healthy expectations, which are going to be totally necessary if you want to do this in the long run and also keep a sense of satisfaction and enjoyment while you're doing it. And in fact, it is lack of patience many times that kills people's momentum just because they don't anticipate how much time and work they're going to have to put into it. And it's not because the thing is hard, it's just a lot of it. And of course, all those ads and YouTube videos about polyglots that can speak many languages without problem, most of which are hugely edited, don't really help people get reasonable expectations of how fast they're gonna get there. It does take time, but you can move forward. And interestingly enough, the more we do it, the better and faster we get at it. For example, with Chinese, at the beginning it would take me many attempts at remembering one character. I would have to investigate it, draw it many times, try to read it and recognize it, and then maybe I would remember it. But nowadays, I can literally look at a new character, check the meaning and the sound, and that's pretty much done. That's all I need to remember it with quite a lot of certainty for a very long time. Our brain does get incredibly better, but there's still so much to do. Now let's move to the third misconception. This one's a bit more about the methods, and it is that people believe that you definitely need a teacher or a school in the traditional sense to ever even have a chance of really learning a language. And while a lot of people have proven that that's not the case, teachers can be absolutely invaluable resources in learning a new language, especially at the beginning to jumpstart the learning, to figure out what you need to do. And schools can also be really helpful in bringing that sense of routine and discipline to your language learning. However, I have realized that a lot of people tend to over-rely on their teachers and make them the end-all be-all of their learning. And so they lose the ability to learn independently without the teacher holding their hands. And in my experience, this is a big way of cutting your chances. And the reason is, if you think about it, that learning a language is too big of a task to put on somebody else. There's so much to do that most action has to come from you. And I would go as far as saying that the most critical skill that has served me the most in language learning has been becoming my own teacher. And that means that whatever you got in front of you, you can use to learn, and you don't need to wait for anybody else to help you. And these days, there's so many places you can learn from, right? Especially with the internet. There are YouTube videos and courses, books, movies, poems, shows, video games, instruction booklets, signs on the street, chats, conversations, ChatGPT, the list goes on. But in order to really take advantage of it, you need to be independent and be able to rely primarily on yourself, which also means that you're gonna be able to learn pretty much every day, which of course is gonna make a huge difference in results long term. And finally, the fourth misconception is that the only thing you get out of learning a new language is fluency, right? The language itself. And while that is actually amazing, right, to be able to now speak a new language, job opportunities, the ability to travel more freely, it still is far from the only reward you get. First, learning a new language can be very enjoyable. And you must have realized that a lot of people end up falling in love with their language, even if they didn't feel that way to begin with. For example, I definitely didn't love German or Czech or Mandarin before I started to actually learn them. And then I thought that they were amazing. And this actually happens because of the people that we get to interact with. Human natural languages are not these perfect formal systems created in a vacuum, right? They are sort of the spirit of a culture. And so by learning to speak and understand them, we get incredible insider level access to their cultures in a way that you really can't do with anything else. You get to live these incredibly intimate experiences, maybe join a festival in Spanish, or get that joke from your German friend, or try out a new cooking recipe in Japanese. And you start feeling that you're becoming a part of a larger portion of humanity. This helps you understand other cultures better and the world at large, but also enjoy them to a degree that you'd have never believed. But perhaps the most amazing reward that you get from learning a new language is when you look back and you realize how much you've changed and developed, And it's kind of easy because these things are so tangible, right? You started not being able to speak or understand a single word, and now you can do so many amazing things with it. You can enjoy and understand that movie, work using the language, be part of a new community, many things. And so this sort of gap of what you've become has a profound impact on first your level of confidence, but also on your very concept of yourself. And it shows you what incredible things you can achieve with your brain, a lot of time and some effort. So just to bring it all back, let's do a quick summary of these 4 misconceptions. People think that learning a new language takes a lot more special talent and a lot less work and time than it actually does. While a teacher can be invaluable, and I think I've certainly had some sort of teacher for every language in which I've done something remotely decent, relying on yourself is the ultimate learning skill. And of course, learning a new language brings you a lot more than competence in the language. I really hope that seeing things from the perspective of someone who has spent about half of his life with learning languages can help you better understand that there's not really any actual reason why you cannot do it too. And I really hope that if you're interested, you give it a try yourself. And if you guys could just write down in the comments what language it is you're trying to learn, maybe that way I can make some cool materials about the best tools and tricks that I found for those languages in particular. Wish you all the best in your language journey, and make sure to follow Languages on Fire for more awesome tips and tools. And I will see you on the next one.